So I want to speak with you during this time about reclaiming your royalty and stepping into your new slippers of signature success. Most are familiar with the story of Cinderella. There's so many different variations of that story, but the consistent narrative is about a young lady whose father passed and she was left with her stepmom and sisters. And her father was already well-to-do, royal, so to speak, if we want to put it in that context. But he left his kingdom, he left his most prized possessions, in a sense, with a woman who he did not really know as well as he may have thought that he knew, and entrusted his kingdom with her and did not fully secure his daughter. And if he did, somehow things were manipulated where the stepmom actually was able to become the benefactor of Cinderella's inheritance as well. So there are a lot of different narratives around how the stepmother gained her powers, gained her access to what was rightfully Cinderella's. And some can look at it as maybe she was practicing some occultic type of experience that allowed her to gain control in that way. So many different narratives. But we know that Cinderella spent her time really being a slave to her stepmom and her stepsisters, right? And the narrative is that a ball was going to be taking place, and the prince was going to be really the signature spotlight of the ball. And rumors that he was also looking for a princess. So many were invited to the ball, but Cinderella was X'd out from going. You know the story. But divinely, things were orchestrated where she was able to go. And it was in that preparation journey that she was being prepared to reclaim her royalty. And the reason I say reclaim is because one of the overlooked aspects of the Cinderella story is that most people focus on how she went from being a slave and a servant girl in her stepmom's home to becoming a princess. But she did not start out that way. Her original orientation and way of being was being in a well-to-do family, was already really a royalty. So it was her time to reclaim that. She was not out of place being where she was going to the ball. She was in the rightful place she should have been. And in your life, in your journey, there have been times where you have felt like Cinderella, where someone altered your destiny, so to speak. Try to take what was rightfully yours. Try to keep you out of places that were divinely for you. But sometimes God allows that so that you can develop character and virtue, different levels of attributes in the most uncommon ways, so that when you get repositioned, you will be better off than before. If Cinderella would have been just in her normal life, who knows how her life would have turned out? She might have already went abroad, went to school, got married, and started a family or so. But being under the prison, in a sense, of her stepmom, she learned some great qualities. And then at the right time, she got positioned to be with who she was meant to be with. Sometimes things that you have been blocked from have actually been setting you up for a much more expansive destiny. Sometimes those blocks have kept you from creating Ishmaels. If you're familiar with the story in the Bible, where Abram and Sarai originally, Abraham and Sarah were given a promise. Abraham was given a promise that he would be the father of many nations. And Sarah, whose womb was barren, had been closed, in a sense, she could not have children. But the Lord told them that they were going to have children, going to have a child. And through him, many more children, the earth would be populated, in a sense. But then they couldn't wait on the plan of God because Sarah was already in her 80s, so to speak. It's like, well, who has a baby after that age? She's well past childbearing years and has yet to have a child. And she laughed, and didn't think that that was really possible. So they conjured up, well, she did, a plan to say, okay, well, maybe one of the maidservants is going to be the one that brings the child. So she convinces her husband, Abraham, to have relations with the maidservant. And then she's mad later when they have a child because he couldn't wait on God's plan, which did eventually happen. And Sarah did give birth to Isaac. But sometimes your delays have kept you from creating Ishmaels that you have to be angry about later. And so when it's time for you to get in position to step into your signature self in those slippers, you have been well developed and prepared to play out this much more expansive role as it relates to your life's mission and purpose. Delayed doesn't mean denied. Cinderella might have been denied, in a sense, what was rightfully hers and delayed from living her truth in her royal birthright. But she was not denied the full expression of who she really was. Because when she met up with that divine appointment, her destiny met her preparation. She reclaimed consciously who she was. And even when she got confused, because she was a limitation on how long she could be in that format, she left there, but she left something behind, not even knowing. And her destiny came to find her. There have been places that you have been already, even if it was in your mind and awareness, that you left a clue, you left something for your destiny to now come and meet you. Because you still have one of those slippers. But the signature slipper comes when your destiny meets with you again, where at times you felt like I had a piece of it and then it escaped me. It was snatched in a dream. It was something had taken place. But now in this recover all season of your life, you remembering and reclaiming, no, do you need the slipper to come back to you? Absolutely not. This is metaphorically. What it is that you reclaim who you are. Cinderella's life was never the same when she left that ball. Though it seemed like she went back to being who she was. She was just sort of playing along with this because of her surroundings, but she knew she changed. And just within a matter of days, her destiny that was going to be permanent. See, she was given a temporary fixed job for the moment to get herself into the place. But now, when that destiny moment meets you, you step more into your signature self because it is you, it is not the slippers. The slippers didn't really give her her destiny. She met up with her destiny. The slipper was just a clue so that her destiny could come and find her. And make sure that this is the right fit. What God has for you in your signature self, when you step into that version of you, no one else can put their foot in that slipper. No one else can occupy that space, that role that God has for you and you alone. Your signature self is a one of a kind, mold broken, made type of orientation. There is not another you, nor can you step into someone else's signature self slipper. Nor should you want to. You should never want something of someone else's that's not for you. But nothing can keep you from your divine destiny and your royal place except you not stepping fully into that. Yes, you've had stages to dance around with it, but this is the time where you are fully, holistically, totalitally reclaiming your royalty, your position in life, your position in purpose, in mission. Whether it's business, ministry, it doesn't matter what it is, just your way of being. When you step into your signature self and feel those shoes of your higher calling for way of beingness, your royal position, you will be the epitome of God's masterpiece work for your life. And no one can stop that. No one can take that away. Temporary setbacks and delays, dancing here and there with your destiny, but never coming into the fullness. That time has expired. Like every story of this nature, it comes out with the one oppressed being the one who overtakes. We think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. Brothers sold him into slavery because they were trying to prevent him from bowing down, they were trying to prevent him from being the one they bowed down to. And yet, no matter what they did, when it cycled back around, Joseph became the economic savior of Egypt and saved Egypt from a famine, saved his family. The plan was not stopped. And no one could fulfill that but him. No one could interpret the dreams that Pharaoh had except Joseph. When you step into your signature self, those slippers, you embody a level of sovereignty that puts you in a rank far beyond others. Even in the story of Joseph, Pharaoh said that I give him the signet ring, that he is second in command. He is above me. I'm only above him just by name of being the Pharaoh, but he rules this land at this point. Your rulership and you stepping into your signature self, those slippers, will put you in a position far beyond if your life would have been linear and you had been living from your birthright truth from the start and always just in that. Again, any delays that have tried to keep you from being the fullness have only been a setback in a sense, but not really a setback. It's part of the setup of protecting the precious until it was time for the precious of who you are to be fully revealed. But remember that you are sovereign and royalty first. And even if you've never seen any of that from your experience, it's who you come from, created in the image of God, the image of a sovereign God, the one who gave his son, his king, for you. That's the kind of bloodline that you come from. And you reclaim that. You remember your orientation, where you originated was from royalty, was from sovereignty. In every step aspect of life, stepmother, stepfather, any step that was not your true orientation, biological DNA, spiritual DNA, everything that tried to prevent you from being the fullness was a catalyst to your catapult. And all it takes is that one meetup with that alignment for your destiny, and then you being in your signature sovereign self and stepping into those slippers. This is where you live out your happily ever now and after, when you remember that you have not always been a slave to systems. You have not always been a victim to circumstances. You are a victor when you remember your truth and reclaim yourself anew now. Reclaim your royalty anew now and step into your signature sovereign self and the slippers that only you can wear.